Hi, this is Mr. Burgos, and I just want to go over some multiplication strategies we're using in class, just because they might be different than, I guess, what you or I were taught going in school. So the first one is kind of the main strategy we've been focusing on. This is called the break apart method, and it always lets them know, I guess, use facts that they know already to solve a two-digit by one-digit problem, or even larger than that. But let's do an example. So we have, let's say, 23 times 6. And so if you don't know 23 times 6, you can break 23 into more manageable numbers. Well, 23 is the same as 10 plus 10 plus 3. And so then what I can do is I can do 6 times 10 plus 6 times 10 plus 6 times 3. Then I have my parts, and I would put them together to get my solution. All right, so that's one method. And the nice thing about this, it lets them really break this number down however they want, into as many groups as they want. Or they could do the opposite. So instead of 23 groups of 6, I could do groups of 2. So 23 times 2 plus 23 times 2 plus 23 times 2. And I can break this apart because, they work on doubling. And once you have those parts, you can add them together to get your answer. Right. This also works when we do it visually. We talk about arrays, and we have an array that's 23 by 6. They might show how they'd break it apart. So they would break it into 6 times 10, 6 times 10, then 6 times 3. So they can also visually show how they're breaking it apart. All right, a similar method of breaking it apart, but I guess it's a little more formal. It's called partial products. And how this method works is very similar. You break it apart. So let's do our 23 times 6. But I break it apart based on place value. So I would do 6 times 3 as my first part. And that would do 6 times 2, but this is where you need to know place value very well. It's not a 2, it's actually 20. 6 times 20. And we learned a cheat, I guess, where I can do 6 times 2 to get 12, add the 0, so 120. Okay, then I want to add my two parts together. And we've been working on this with larger numbers as well, so let me use this. Okay, so again, I would have my first part, which is 5 times 7, and I've been having them, get in the habit of writing them out, because that way they can visually see that this 3 is not a 3, but it's 30, and then I make sure I get all the parts, because if you don't add those 0, it changes the value of the number quite substantially. So this is 35, this is 15 with a 0, 150, and this is 20 with two zeros behind it, 2000. So I'd add up my parts. Okay. Okay. And they can use traditional method as well, but this way they have, a couple different break apart methods that can work for them. Another fun one we've been working on is lattice, and we kind of introduced that today for students that weren't sure. And this is another way, if you know your facts, you can really use it to easily multiply any large number, or any small number for that matter. The only thing I don't like about this method is it doesn't really kind of teach the concept of place value. So it's a good check method, but I don't like it as a primary method because, again, it doesn't show place value, or doesn't have them show the understanding of place value. But here's kind of how it works. If I'm doing 4 times 8, I put in this array box, or this lattice box, and so I put one digit up here and the other one there. And what I do is I multiply these two numbers together, and 8 times 4 is 32. Well, I put the tens place here and the ones place there. So for 32, I have 33 tens and two ones. Okay. It works the same. I could also write it this way. I could also write, 8 times 4 because they're reciprocal, and so it gets to the same answer. And then I just write my answer down here, 32. So I just kind of carry this over. Okay, and so for a 1 by 1, it's not the most useful. But when you get to larger numbers, let's do 18 times 5. Okay. Well, I put my 5 up here because I have one box and it's 2 across, or 2 down, I should say, 18. All right. So 5 times 1 is 5. So I have 0 tens and 5 ones. And then 5 times 8, kind of put in this box here, which is 40. Okay. And so then how I add this together is I work diagonally. So this is a 0. This diagonal group is 9. And there is 0 here. So my answer would be 90. Right? This gets more fun for the kids when they get larger numbers. They can figure out I can do 2-digit times 2-digit, which they might not be able to do a different method. So let's go 47 times 57. So I put 1 digit above each box, and then I put them together. So the 7 and the 5 come together here, so 3, 5, 35. I'll try and change colors here. The 7 and the 7 come together here, so that's 49. Okay. The 4 and the 5 come together in this box, so it's 20. And the 7 and the 4 come together in this box, which is 28. Okay, so now I have my answers. All I have to do is add up the parts. And you add again diagonally. So my 9, I add this group together diagonally. So it's 9 plus 8 is 17. So I keep the 7 and I carry over the 1. Then I add this group together, 6, and here I have 2. So my answer is 2,679. All right. So there's some 3 different methods. One's lattice, partial products, and then a break apart, which really allows them to break it into whatever numbers they're most comfortable with. All right, these are just a few methods, and we'll share some more throughout the year. Thanks.